Law applicants in the UK have plenty of choices when it comes to law schools, but not all of them are as easy to get into as others. Some may interview applicants, some might have particularly high grade requirements, and some will require applicants to sit an admissions test. This is the Law National Aptitude Test, or LNAT, and this video will explain everything you need to know to start your preparation. Let's get into it. So let's start off with the basics. The LNAT is an admissions test that is run by Pearson VUE and is required for admission at 9 universities in the UK. These are Bristol, Cambridge, Durham, Glasgow, King's College London, LSE, Oxford, SOAS and UCL. It's also used by a handful of universities in Singapore, Spain and India. As you'd expect, it's exclusively used for law degrees, though this does include any variants or joint degrees that these universities may teach, such as law with languages. It's not an optional test, so applicants for any of these degrees will need to take it before the end of the admission cycle. But when do you actually need to take the LNAT? Well, that depends on which universities you're applying to. You'll only need to take the LNAT once per admission cycle, even if you're applying to multiple LNAT universities, but there are several different deadlines in place. Firstly, we have Oxford and Cambridge. These universities already have earlier application deadlines than every other UK university, with UCAS applications needing to be submitted by October 15th. The same applies to the LNAT, so you must take the test by this date to be considered, although we'd recommend taking it well before this date in order to avoid stress. The other deadlines change from year to year, so we can't exactly specify when you'll need to complete your test for the year that you're applying. It's essential that you research exactly when the deadline is, but we'll use the 2026 entry deadlines as an example here. Firstly, on December 31st, 2025, applicants for King's, LSE and UCL will need to have sat the LNAT. Then on January 14th, Bristol and Durham applicants need to have done it. Then, finally, we have Glasgow and SOAS on January 24th. Remember, these dates and potentially even university groupings are subject to change each year, so ensure you've checked the official LNAT website for the most up-to-date information. Each year, registrations for the LNAT open on August 1st, then testing begins on September 1st. You can usually book your test up to a couple of days before the final testing date, though it's never a good idea to leave it this late. When booking, you'll have to pay a fee of £75 if you live in the UK or EU, or £120 if you're taking the test anywhere else. Bursaries are available to cover this should you meet the financial criteria. Right, now we understand the logistics of taking the test, it's time to explore the test itself, starting with its format. The LNAT is entirely computer-based and must be sat at a Pearson VUE testing centre. It lasts 2 hours and 15 minutes in total, which is split between two parts, Section A and Section B. Section A is the multiple choice portion of the test. There are 42 individual questions here, for which you'll have 95 minutes to complete. Each question is related to one of 12 passages, which are not necessarily anything to do with law in any way. While these are all non-fictional, you won't need any specific subject knowledge in order to answer the questions. Section B is the essay writing task. This one is a lot simpler, as it's a fairly standard writing task that aims to test each applicant's ability to communicate and reason. You'll be able to choose one of 3 questions to answer in the form of a short essay. You'll have to do this in 40 minutes. These questions can vary from ethics-based questions to scenarios and quotes that you need to discuss. Once again, you won't be expected to have any in-depth knowledge on the topics covered, though you should choose the question that you feel the most confident in answering. So that's the format of the test, but how is it scored? Since the two sections of the LNAT are pretty different from one another, there isn't a uniform scoring system for the whole test. Section A is a multiple choice quiz, so the scoring system is pretty simple. Each question is worth 1 mark, meaning you have 42 marks in total. There's no negative scoring in the test, so your final score will simply be the number of questions you got correct, with no form of score conversion applied. Section B isn't so simple, as essays are far more subjective than multiple choice questions. The LNAT universities each use the essay in different ways, with some taking it far more seriously than others. For example, Oxford and Cambridge each implement numerical scoring systems for Section B, meaning applicants will need to meet certain criteria in their essays in order to score points. Others don't use it anywhere near as much, with admissions tutors generally just reading through it to get a sense of each applicant's ability. Now, let's consider how you should prepare for the LNAT. Firstly, as the test doesn't really utilise any subject knowledge, you won't be doing much textbook revision. However, there are plenty of concepts and techniques that you'll need to understand and recognise in the text. We find that one of the best ways to prepare is to read, a lot. Since Section A is so focused on reading passages, you should take time each day to read through texts that are similar to what you'll find in the test. This could be from newspapers, magazines, blogs, anything really, as long as the pieces are well written and have key points that you can identify. To challenge yourself further, try to ask yourself LNAT-styled questions about each piece to see if you can identify arguments, tone, or author intentions. These may not have definitive answers like the real LNAT questions do, but it will be a great way of keeping your mind sharp. However, the real meat of your LNAT prep is going to be the practice questions. There are a few official practice questions available on the LNAT website, so these are a great starting point. However, these are also fairly limited, so where else can you get questions from? LNAT past papers from previous years have never really been publicly released, so we don't have the benefit of a big library of old tests to utilise. However, there are tests with similar questions, such as the critical thinking section from Oxford's Thinking Skills Assessment, or the UCAT's verbal reasoning section. These questions aren't one-to-one with the LNAT, as the passages aren't as long and the variety of questions isn't as big, but they're a handy tool to utilise once you've used up all the official tests. Other than this though, the primary option is to invest in a third-party LNAT question bank. These provide a healthy amount of LNAT-style questions for you to utilise in both standalone practice sessions and full mock tests. These will also include work solutions for each question, which are essential for understanding the questions you didn't get right the first time. Then there are also books available, including LNAT-specific books and more general application books like the Big Book of Oxbridge Applications, which covers every step of the Oxford and Cambridge law application process. However you try to prepare, the important thing is that you dedicate a good amount of time to working through practice questions and analysing a wide variety of texts. So that's the essential information you need to know about the LNAT. There are plenty of specific preparation tips that you can utilise, which you can find in our selection of LNAT guides. You can find the link to our LNAT Hub in the description below. Be sure to subscribe for more about UK universities and law schools, and good luck with your LNAT preparation.